So welcome to my solo podcast or get to know me video. I don't know if I can call it that. I don't know. I basically am doing the podcast every single week, but unfortunately some weeks people cancel, and because I can only do 1 or 2 podcast recordings in advance, if people cancel on me then I don't have a video to upload. So here we are. So I wanted to give a little bit of an introduction to me. I'm in a different setting today because I'm actually at my cousin's house. He's hosting a barbecue and I was like, I need to record this video, so can I come upstairs? And he was like, sure. So difference of environment today, but I wanted to just give you a little bit of an introduction about me. I think a lot of people don't know that I'm a management consultant. I do that full time. And then I do the podcast on the side. And I don't really talk about like being a management consultant that much because I just don't think it fits with what I'm talking about on Instagram. It's like a completely different job. A lot of the stuff that I do isn't very relevant, and so I don't really share so much about my job, and I don't like to go on about how I have a full-time job and I do this. I see a lot of influencers doing that in a kind of way of showing off. From my opinion, I see a lot of people doing that. And also I don't want to come across as if I'm like complaining about having a full-time job and doing the podcast, because I'm choosing to do it. That is something that I am choosing to do. And so it is hard. It is difficult. It is time constraining. But it is very, very tough to keep both things going. And I will talk about time management in a little bit. But I wanted to start on, why I created the podcast and why I started, because so many people always ask me, like, why did you even begin? And I think the reason, I'm going to go back to like the actual story of it. I was doing a shoot in London and my mum was meeting her cousin, Reshma. And I'd only met her once when I was a kid. I don't even remember. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll come along to the lunch after. And I went to the lunch and she was just the most inspiring woman I've ever met. Like, she was on her book tour in London for Brave Not Perfect. She was hosting us at this lunch. Then she had like a book launch in the evening with like all these journalists and entrepreneurs. It was just amazing. And when I met her, I just thought, wow, like, I wish I could be like you. And I was kind of in this phase of my life where I was going through this self-development phase. I was figuring out what I wanted. I was, just come out of a relationship and I was just like, what is it that I need to do? And I met Reshma and I was just so inspired by her and I just felt so gravitated towards her. And then weirdly, that summer, and then I went to her book launch, met all these incredible women, and she uplifted me so much. And I just felt that she really believed in me about something. I don't know what it was, but she just really did believe in me. And then I went to New York coincidentally that summer, and she lives in New York. And I said to her, can I please just shadow you for one day? I just want to see what you do. I just want to know what you're doing. And as I shadowed her, she was recording a podcast. And I was like, this is quite cool. And I've always been somebody who has been quite opinionated, as you can probably tell. And I've always been somebody who's always asked why. Or I've always been interested to understand people's perspectives. And especially when we hold people are very passionate about something, I've always been like, why? Like, what's your story? Why are you so passionate about it? And so I shadowed her for the day, and after that I was just like, this is so interesting. And I said to her, I want to start a podcast. And she was like, you should. My idea was kind of talk about like the brown girl problems, which I feel like weren't really being talked about as much like 3.5 years ago. And I wanted to title my podcast The Indian Problem. And then I thought, that's really negative. There's loads of positive things about our culture, loads of positive things about our traditions, loads of incredible values that so many of us have learned. So why am I going to label it as a problem? So I was like, scrap that idea. And then there were a lot of experiences I wanted to share that were outside of our culture and outside of our religion. And so I was like, what can I title it as? And everyone always targets us as millennials, and millennials have changed this, and millennials are this. And I was like, okay, millennial is a good word. And a lot of my ideas come when I'm running or walking or exercising of any sort. And I remember one day I was running and I just was trying to find like words to match with millennial, and I just found millennial mind. And I was like, that's it. Like, I have to call my podcast that. So I recorded my first ever episode with Mira Manick, and I just can't give enough praise to how kind Mira was to me. She was an author. She was an entrepreneur. She owned a cafe in Soho, and she was somebody who I didn't know. Like, I'd met her one time for about 5 minutes. 5 years ago. She didn't even remember me because it was so brief. But she was another woman that I was like, wow, they're so strong. She's so independent. Like, she's really a role model. And I remember I messaged my friend to say, hey, do you mind asking her? Because he knew her. I was like, do you mind asking her if she'll be on my podcast? And he was like, sure, I've given her your number. Have a call with her. And I remember speaking to her and telling her the idea. And she was like, I love that. let's go for it. And I just remember being like, oh my God, I cannot believe Mira Manick is going to be my first guest. And I really believe that when you have an idea, it's so fragile and you really need people to believe in you. And I'm just so grateful that Mira was one of those people that really did believe in me and really supported me. And she gave me so much confidence. Like I turned up to her house with like a little camera and I thought it was going to be a full style production. Like I was watching Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory and Lewis Howes and Jay Shetty, and I just thought, I can do that with one camera, like absolutely no problem. Even now in a studio with 3 cameras, I still don't have that level of production. It just takes so much work and there's just so much that goes into it. But I was very naive and I didn't really understand it. I did not understand the podcast game at all. I literally recorded 2 episodes, one with Mira, one with Candice, and I sat on them for 6 months. I didn't release them. And then in lockdown, I was like, right, I need to start actually releasing these things. Like I need to do something about it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to release it. Now, bear in mind, I recorded 2 episodes. I kind of thought about the guests I wanted to record with after that, but I hadn't asked them, hadn't been confirmed. I released the first episode and it was number 10 in the charts, mental health charts in Great Britain on the first day. And as my imposter syndrome kicked in, I was like, this is a fake email. This is a lie. This doesn't make sense. Why? Why would my podcast be in the charts? Like at all, ever, let alone be number 10. And it got loads of views and it was like, by loads, I mean like for a first episode, it got quite a lot. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I remember speaking to someone and they were like, you have to release an episode every week to keep the momentum going. And I was like, what? I don't understand. And so in 1 week, I was researching the guests, researching the topic, preparing the podcast, editing the podcast and releasing it. And I did that for 10 weeks. I literally did the first season like that and it was crazy. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is mad. And I was so burnt out that I took a break. And then I did the same with season 2 and I did the same with season 3. And after season 3, I realized that I'm putting out great stuff, but I'm not getting any attraction. And the reason is because I keep taking these giant breaks in between. And some of them have been for reasons that are kind of out of my control. But, you know, I really realized that if I really wanted to do this eventually full time one day, I need to be consistent and I need to be really persistent. And so here we are. I don't call it season 4 because now I'm just going to continue to do the podcast. But we are here, and I think, you know, one of the biggest reasons for me starting this is whenever I felt low, whenever I felt down, the first thing I've done is turn to people online to see what have they done about the situation. So whatever I'm feeling upset about, I'll just type it in and be like, how do people overcome it? And when people share their stories and you hear them on podcasts or videos or whatever, and you hear them sharing how they've overcome something, how they've been through that challenge, what they've done to support themselves, how they've managed to get over that really tough time, it makes you feel less alone. Because whenever you're going through something terrible and you're in a situation, all you do is feel alone. You just think it's happening to me and this is like the worst thing ever. But hearing someone's story can really inspire you. And for me, that's happened so many times. And I just thought, if I can do that, how amazing is that? So here we are with the podcast. We are, I don't know how many episodes down, maybe like 35? I don't know, I need to check that. But yeah, it's quite exciting. So one of the things people really wanted me to cover was how I manage my time. Now, I mentioned this in the beginning, I do have a full-time job. It is difficult, it is hard, but I'm choosing to do this. Like this is 100% my choice. And so I don't feel like I have the right to sit here complaining about it because I'm choosing to do it. But that's just my perspective on it. Now, obviously I have the performance planner, which I use to time block, I use to prioritize, I use to set my goals. I'll put the link in the description below. You don't have to buy it. It's just like all the pages are on the website if you want to have a look at it. But I think it's the best way to structure your time. And it's the best way that I manage my time because I just use this really easy, simple template. And that's why really I created it because I've been using this for so long. I was coaching clients on it and they loved it. And so I was like, I just need to turn it into a planner that's available for everyone. And it can help people so quickly just be very specific on what they want to achieve and when they're going to achieve it. I think so many of us have a dream, so many of us have a plan, but we don't know when we're going to do it. Like when exactly are you going to do it? What days, what evenings are you free? And the performance planner really helps me to highlight that and to really time block as much as I can. I will say, however, in the last month, everything has been going at like 300 miles an hour. It's been as busy as it ever could be, and I am finding it quite difficult to balance my time and my work. And I think it's not about necessarily like the work, it's more around my headspace. Like I'm feeling like my mind is unable to switch off. I've always been somebody though that has never been able to switch off, but this particular month it's felt like there's so much going on and there's so much to do, and I have been feeling really, really burnt out if I'm completely honest, and it's really tough. I've been trying to take like evenings or like one evening a week to just switch off, but even then it's not really happening. And I am feeling like when I'm at people's weddings or at people's birthdays, or I am not present. Like right now, I'm at my cousin's barbecue, sitting in their room. They're all downstairs and I'm sitting recording this video. And sometimes it can feel like I'm not present. So what I have decided to do, because I have done this for so long myself, is I've decided to get someone to help me edit. So at the moment, obviously I record, research, edit the podcast, upload it, make all the reels, TikToks, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But getting somebody to do the editing for me will really help me because I'll have more time. And that's what I would suggest to anyone else that's burning out. It's like, if you want to still keep the momentum going and you want to still keep going, and I think I'm also in the camp of like, it's gonna be tough, like it's gonna be hard, like it's not meant to be easy. If this was meant to be easy and I was just like chilling all the time, then what's the point? Like, it's definitely never going to get me anywhere. It's meant to be difficult, and that's why the journey is so much fun, because you're like, I worked so hard and I got here. So I'm sure it will pay off in the future, but I've decided to get an editor because I realised that I'm not really looking after myself. Like, I'm not going to the gym anymore. I probably go like once every 10 days, which is terrible. I used to go like 5 times a week. I feel like I'm just exhausted all the time. I feel like I don't have any time to like switch off or like have any time to breathe, really. I feel like I'm just going at 100 miles an hour, which is great because I'm growing, but at the same time I want to really make sure I'm looking after myself. So I have got an editor now, which is really, really good. I'm going to outsource that work. And what I really wanted to just share was that if you are feeling really terrible, if you are feeling really burnt out yourself and you don't want to put your foot off the gas, see what you can outsource. See what you can get help with. See what someone else can support you with. It's not, you know, that you have to stop everything to just take a break. You can do that, like, but for some people, like right now, I don't feel like I want to just stop my podcast for 2 weeks and take a breather. For some people, that may be the right solution, but for me, I feel like the right solution is to outsource and to give me that breathing space so I can continue to look after myself and continue to keep going with the podcast. And hopefully it will pay off. Another really important point to talk about, especially with time management, is setting boundaries. I think it's really, really important that you know exactly what you want and you know exactly what your boundaries are so that you can communicate them to other people. I feel like so many of us just don't communicate how we're feeling, and that leads into my next point around confrontation, but I'll come on to that. But in terms of boundaries, I'm very clear with my parents about what boundaries are important for me. There are some that I'm like, it's not really that important, doesn't really make a big deal to my life, but boundaries are there for you to just be respected and for you to understand what's really clear to you. And the best way for you to set a boundary is for you to communicate it. Like, once you've set it, you need to communicate that with like your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friend, whatever, your sister, your brother, your mum, your dad, whoever like is in your environment. They need to be aware of your boundaries, because then they know exactly how they're feeling, they know exactly how you're feeling, they know exactly where to go. So confrontation is a big topic that I love to talk about, as I'm sure so many of you know if you listen to my podcasts. And I feel like it's the most important skill to have. You know, communication is so key in any relationship, and confrontation for me is so key in any relationship. If I cannot tell you how I'm feeling, or if you cannot tell me how you're feeling, it's never going to work. I'm not about the hiding around life. I just like can't do that. If I don't like you, I probably will tell you, unless I have no intention of caring about our future relationship. I mean, if I don't care about you, this is a bit blunt, isn't it? But if I don't care about you, then I'm just not going to confront you because I just don't care. And if I do care about you, I will 100% confront how I'm feeling, and I will 100% confront you on how I'm feeling. But confrontation doesn't need to be argumentative. It doesn't need to be aggressive. People tie conflict with confrontation and see it as such a negative thing. They're like, oh my gosh, she's so confrontational. Being confrontational is the best quality ever, because you're telling somebody how you feel. You're not being bitchy, you're not being a backstabber. It doesn't mean you have to say it aggressively. It doesn't mean you need to shout at that person. The most important thing when you're confronting someone is, I think, to be vulnerable. So whenever I'm confronting someone, I try to say, like, I just wanted to speak to you about this because I care about our relationship and I don't want us to have this animosity between us. I was really hurt by X and it really upset me because of Y, whatever it is. Saying it in a way of like saying it like I'm upset and I'm hurt and showing emotion, rather than being like, you're a little bitch because you did this, you know? I mean, I'm sure no one speaks like that, but instead of just shouting, being like, I can't believe you did this, or like, this is ridiculous, which I have done in the past, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that I always talk with this passionate, like loving voice. I have definitely done that in the past, but now I'm trying to be really, really clear about, you know, what is my intention? Why am I confronting this person? How can I say it in a nicer way? How can I say it in a way that's not going to offend them and get them defensive? And I think it's so linked to what people are talking to me about pressure. That was one of the topics that came up so much in the Q&A I did the other day, and people were saying like, How do I deal with pressure? Now, pressure, I think, comes from caring about what other people think of you, and you feel pressure generally because people care about what other people think all the time. And I can't sit here and say I don't care. I 100% do. This video is making me feel anxious because I'm like, oh my God, I really don't know what people are going to think of. People are going to attack me, and people on TikTok are really mean these days. They're so mean. And the way I deal with it now compared to the way I dealt with it before is just very, very, very different. Pressure for me now is like, I just don't really feel it. You know, I just don't really care. I'm so confident in what I want, and I'm so confident in my path, and I'm so happy where I am in my life right now that people pressuring me and telling me that I should be married and that I'm going to be a spinster because I'm not married at the age of 28 is ridiculous to me. Like, it's absolutely ludicrous. But I completely understand why people are saying that, because I would say 90% of my friends are married, you know? Like, a lot of people within our communities are with a partner for a long time or not, but they feel like they have to get married by a certain age, and that works for them and it's great. Or they just want to get married by a certain age, or they're really happy with their partner, whatever. I'm not saying they're all forced, but I am saying that people do generally feel that when they're not married by 30, that it's a negative thing. And that's because it's told to us by so many people all the time. The people I know that are single and above the age of 30, everyone's like, should we find someone for them? Like, I feel so sorry for her. And it's like, why? Why do you feel sorry for them? They are perfectly fine and happy. And I think I don't feel the pressure because I just am very happy within myself, and I've come to terms with the fact that I know what I want. And so when people say that they feel pressured, I think it's really important to understand why you feel pressured. It's very hard to block out that noise, but I think once you understand what you truly want and what your purpose is and what your value is, you won't place all your value on marriage. And I think we are taught to place a lot of our value on marriage. And I think that especially for girls and for guys, to be honest, you just have to learn to understand that the people that are commenting these things about you, they don't care about you. Like, they probably tell so many other girls and boys that day, why aren't you married? What's wrong with you? You're going to be left off the shelf. You're too old now. Like, you need to find someone. They probably say it to so many different people. It's not really an attack on you. It's just that you're doing something that's outside of their timeline and outside of their expectation, and they find that difficult to digest. And unfortunately, we live in a society where everyone can comment or judge or make life, whether it's through social media or through it's in person. People just feel like they can commentate on like everything that you're doing, and it's kind of annoying, you know? But you just have to learn to be confident within yourself and block out that noise and just really understand why you're caring about that pressure. Now, if your parents or someone you love are giving you pressure, this links back to my point around confrontation. If you confront them with why they're so worried, so let's say someone is worried that you're not going to get married, okay, and it's your parents, and they're like, we're really worried you're not going to get married and you don't know how to confront the situation. Find out the reason why you think that they're worried about you not getting married. Is it because they think you're not going to be settled? Is it because they think you're not going to have kids? Is it because they think you're going to live at home? Is it because they don't think you're going to be financially stable? Whatever the reasons are, write them down and then speak to your parents and say, I understand that you're worried because of X, 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 and X, but I'm not worried because of X, 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 and X. And if one of the reasons that they're worried but isn't in that list, I guarantee they will feel more comfortable to tell you why they're worried if it's not in that list, because you've basically opened up a conversation to be like, I understand why you're worried. Like, I would be worried too if, you know, I feel like if I had a kid and they weren't married, I would be worried that they're not settling down. Okay, why do we worry they're not settling down? Because they wouldn't be happy. Okay, so you're worried about my happiness? Well, I'm really happy right now, and I don't feel like right now is the time for me to find someone. And you can have that dialogue with your parents. Whilst if you just don't say anything and you're too scared to have that conversation, you'll never actually understand the deep reason why they're worried about you not getting married, and they won't understand the deep reason why you're not worried about you getting married. Does that make sense? Have I said it in the right way? You know what I mean. So I think confrontation is so linked to all of these things like boundaries, pressure. Just don't allow anyone else to dictate your life. You are in control of your life and you know what's best for you. You know, the only advice I can say is if you work on yourself and you're confident within yourself, you won't allow other people's opinions to override how you're feeling. You can still allow them to affect you. They still affect me, but they don't override the feelings that I'm feeling. No one will force me to do anything because I know exactly what I want to do. Doesn't mean I still sometimes feel like, oh, wish you didn't say that. Oh, that really upset me. That's okay. I just don't allow the emotions to supersede how I'm feeling and allow them to affect my actions. So that's the close of my video. I hope that helped. I don't know if it helped anything, but I hope that you guys got to know me a little bit better. I hope that answers some of your questions. Let me know if you want me to do another Q&A, and I'm gonna go enjoy the barbecue now. Bye.